Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of A Coffee with Chris, as always brought to you in association with our charity partner Big C, who help local people affected by cancer, and proudly sponsored by Hill Coaching Company, here to help you become a better version of yourself today. Before we get stuck into today's conversation, don't forget, people, especially people of Norfolk and East Anglia and beyond, if you can make the trip, there is a massive event coming up on the 13th of September. It's called Reputation Matters. No nonsense advice on how to enhance your business brand. If you are fed up of the fluff, the acronyms, the things that just get completely lost on you, please come along and get some simple, straight talking strategy from Plain Speaking PR, Pippa and Hannah, Dan Bradfield from Naked Marketing, and of course myself for all things social media. Now, let's get stuck into today's conversation. I'm so happy to have managed to get this guest on. Founder of Bleat Creative, Scott McKay. Thought is their first action. Before they design, they discuss, deliberate, and devise. I love that. Scott, welcome to A Coffee with Chris. What is the marketing holy grail, and why should people care?
Well, firstly, thanks, Chris, for having me on the show. So the holy grail is something that was taught to me during my mini MBA in marketing from Professor Mark Ritson. And he talks about segmentation, targeting, and position, and it being the holy grail of the marketing mix. And that is about segmenting your market so you know you're speaking to the right people. It's then taking that segmentation and then pinpointing the target areas that you want to go after. So that could be something like low-hanging fruit, or you want to gain market share in that particular area. And then the P stands for positioning. So it's about the positioning of what you're going to say to that client or that customer, that end customers. You know, what you're going to say to them, how you're going to resonate with them, how are they going to then purchase from you. So this is all done through various different mediums, but you really need to do this before you start going straight into tactics. And what lots of like small business owners don't realize is that don't have the big marketing departments, is that if you go straight into tactics, you could just be burning cash. And it's about investing in the right pockets of the right area to then get you the return on investment, rather than at the end of the day, you know, just I've spent £300 now. You know, some people might be listening and go, "Oh, £300 isn't a lot of budget." But to the small business owner that is starting out, that £300, if you can turn that into 3x, or you can turn that into 5x, that's a good solid return on investment. But if you've just punted £300 out and you haven't got anything back, as a business owner, you can feel pretty deflated. So the whole kind of, as Mark Ritson says, he goes STP, like the holy grail. In you know, when we were taught, it is very much making sure that you are doing things right, and you're not just, you know, chucking everything out to everyone, and your content is then going to be missed, be that organic, paid for, or whatever tactical platform you want to use.
What a fantastic opener, Scott. It's brilliant. Loads of goodness in that. So I love what you said about low hanging fruit. I think that's really refreshing. I still think so many marketers aren't making it accessible and taking things step by step. It's you have to be everywhere and do everything and go here and go there, and all of a sudden it kind of gets lost. And I'm so pleased as well that you've mentioned the very, very crucial point of budget as well, which we're going to go into later on in the conversation. The holy grail, right? You've sold me in on that, Scott. I do appreciate that terminology, and perhaps linked to that point that you've made so superbly, Scott, and leading into this next question here is I'm really intrigued as to why business owners haven't already really wrestled properly with STP, as you say, and have almost just gone down the tactics, mass marketing road. What's the why behind that? Why are business owners doing that? Is it just a lack of education and understanding, or is there something more at play here?
I think you're right. I think it's and we've all been there. Like, you know, as a new business owner, we've all been there. I've seen it in action with the customers that we've got, and because of the the monetary value of the paid for advertising per se, say we're going to go down that route of a mass marketing campaign, is that they are scared to invest with experts, agencies, etc., freelancers that really know how to do that. So what they try to do is they try to save money initially, and we've all done it. We've all been there, tried to learn video tutorials, etc. We all try to do that. I think it comes down to a fact of these things take time. So STP compared to mass marketing is everything to everyone at once. And you're maybe going to hook a few people in. So you're maybe going to hook some people in and you're going to get some of those initial sales. But with the segmentation, targeting, positioning, it's something that takes time. It's not an overnight. And I think that's the biggest thing that you have to understand. We work with a client that is an art gallery, and they have bought into how much time it is taken for us to understand and segment and target their market. Whereas this month, we managed to convert 10x for them.
Amazing.
So, but that has taken, we started working with them back in January, February. It's taken to now because it is diversification every month of the market and what's working and what's not, and making sure that we're fine-tuning the campaign till we get to that point. But you need to continue to fine-tune. And that's why the segmentation, the targeting, and the position is key to this.
I think that's crucial, Scott. I love what you've said there. I think, and I asked this to 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀, actually, from Unearthed, who was a guest on a Coffee with Chris in the previous episode. And I asked him the question around brand behavior, and I wonder if you have the same or a different take here, Scott, which is around, are maybe small and medium businesses and brands maybe wrongly trying to make their marketing behave like a big brand when they should or they shouldn't? Like, you want it to be aspirational, right? You want to get there, but maybe it's too soon. And perhaps, and is that linked to the mass marketing versus STP marketing point that you're trying to portray? Is that another maybe a stumbling block for people?
I'd say very much so. Having been, before Bleat, I was, was fortunate enough to be head of marketing for 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀, which was a national cycling brand. And it is very much, you still have to have that element. So me going back into my head of marketing role, you still need that air of mass marketing, but you don't want to be putting all of your eggs in your basket. And then for 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀, we had our STP was all about building community. And it was all about joining the herd, 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀, the herd. So it was all about joining the herd and being part of something and creating a bit of a movement, a bit like what Nike did, She Runs the Night campaign about 3-5 years ago. It was a huge success. But what they did is they did the segmentation, the targeting, and the positioning, and they got it bang on. And actually, it just produced this huge kind of buzz. And that was aimed at females that wanted to run early in the morning or at night after work, but wanted to feel safe. So running in a group. And then that then became, like our park run type thing, but on a much, much bigger scale, because obviously Nike is behind it.
So interestingly, even the big brands are going down and have already been down the STP road many a time. Scott, one of the things that I know that you're so passionate about, and it is one of the sort of key pillars of your work, is truly understanding a business's market and getting to them. And I feel like us marketers are perhaps guilty of saying, we need to understand your market. How does one actually go about that? Like, in logical steps, how can a business owner or marketing manager sit at their desk today and start to understand their market? What does that look like in an actual tick list?
So that goes back to Carl, who was previously on, and what he was talking about with, you need to do your market research. And there's various different ways to understand your market. And again, that segmentation comes from the market research that you've got, and your market orientation. You really need to understand that. You need to understand the customer before you even start any segmentation. So it's, market research, market orientation, where do I sit in the market, who are my competitors? But the things of, like Carl spoke about, ethnography, like you just need to go and hear what people are saying about your competitors' brands and where you sit. Doing online surveys with a competition where you can win some free items from your store. One, you might get a new customer that's never worn your whatever it is, if we're talking about clothing, or has bought your product and absolutely loves it. So you've created a brand ambassador because they have felt empowered, they've felt loved, because they've won the competition, they've tried the product, and they've been surprised about the product, because everything that you've talked about and you've said to them through the process is like, we are sustainable, the quality is this, we have a repair scheme. All of those kind of different bits and pieces come together and they make that customer feel empowered. I don't know if I've answered that question how you wanted it, but that's kind of what I feel.
Yeah, no, you have absolutely, Scott, you have. And in actual fact, I was talking to a client about this literally about an hour before recording, and we were talking about trying to get some social proof. So building our case studies, our reviews, and they had mentioned to me, yeah, we tried that because we weren't really successful. So, well, did you incentivize it? And I'm so happy that you said that, Scott. Incentivizing your customers, your clients to give you that feedback so you can really understand your market, so you can get more of those people, is brilliant. And still so many business owners aren't doing that. And yeah, I think it was a brilliant answer, Scott. There's something else that we have to talk about, and you nicely mentioned it at the start, Scott. Times are tough, right? And yeah, they're as tough as they ever have been out there. And so one of the things I really want to help people with is, before they start spending loads of money, which I think again marketers are quite guilty of. I'll spend here, spend more there, spend here. But what's an unsexy topic, which we're going to talk about right now, is actually what about stopping wasting your money? And you started that a little bit at the start of this chat, Scott. So I'm quite eager to hear, what are your tips in terms of how can you instantly save and stop wasting your marketing budget?
So I think there's 2 points here. You still need your mass market to run. You still need a trickle of your mass market, which is all things to all people, which, if we're going to put it into brand terms, is your Coca-Cola. It's the Coca-Cola of the world. We all know the brand. We're thirsty. We fancy a cold fizzy drink. You're in a foreign country. You're going to the supermarket. There's this plethora of items there. You pick a Coke up because you know it. So you're always going to have your mass market. Whereas if you look at a segmented kind of type, if we look back at Red Bull during its early days, it was very much for the adventurers, the action sport people. That's who it was aimed at. So they segmented their market around those type of people. Now, if you're a small business, one of the things that you want to look at and what you want to focus on is those high value segments. So what you need to do is, with the market research, or how you've gained that, there's plenty of free research on the net. It is a simple Google. You'll be surprised about how much you can find. If it's a bit of a niche market and you have a little bit of budget, you can go off to the likes of Candor, who are Candor, which are a market research agency. You can buy off the shelf market research for specific areas, or actually focus on and have a bit of market research done yourself. Once you've got that, what you can then craft is the segmented areas and what the market share in there is. So you can then say, my revenue in this area for this particular product is this. The total value of that area in there is Y. So therefore, a quick calculation, my percentage in that area is, I've got 95% of that market. So is it worth me going into that market to try and capture that 5%? Or over here, I've got a smaller market where I don't have market share and I've only got 10% of that market. So therefore, I've got 90% available to go after. Then look at your competitors. Who are the competitors in that market and what is their market share? And then finally, how are you going to position yourself against those competitors, and what is your positioning, and why are customers going to buy from you? So that high value segment then becomes the best place for that low hanging fruit, because they particularly haven't, they've most probably heard of you, but not on a higher level. But if you are using your proposition and your tone of voice in that sector, you could particularly start to gain traction and people that have come into market to buy. Because we've got to remember, the other thing is, you've also always got to remember, we kind of think everyone is in market to buy all of the time. The buying cycle isn't that. There is only, I forget the statistic, but it's only like 3 to 5%. And forgive me if I'm wrong to listeners, but it is very, very small of the people that are actually in market in that buying cycle to buy. And typically what I've seen over the years is it can take anything from 3 months to 6 months for them to be fully into, right, I'm in the market to buy. So depending on what your product or service is, that's what it comes down to. When are they ready to buy? So you need to be looking at that. And again, I've touched on it. You need to refine that positioning. That is crucial. Your positioning to that sector is key. Now, positioning isn't your strap line to what your brand is. Positioning is, this is what I want to say to these people in this area with my product. And I think some people get really confused with, oh, you want me to change my strap line and that's not quite right. No, the positioning is how you want to be seen to the market that are there. So you're positioning to A to C to E, completely different. And then you need to, once you've got that cracked, you need to measure and adjust, and then leverage that data that's coming in. And I touched on it before. What we've been doing with the art gallery that we work with. We've been leveraging that data, and then we've been measuring and adjusting the campaign to get it to work.
Yeah. I love that, Scott. I think you might have answered my next question, actually, funnily enough, which is totally fine, on actually the starting steps for spending again as well. And so it sounds to me, if I was to summarize, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, that actually far too many businesses are guessing. They're doing the mass marketing piece. They're not bothering with the research. And that is how you can instantly save money and also spend it in the right areas. Have I got that right, Scott?
Yeah, that is, but you've also got to remember the buying cycle. And I think people don't talk about that. People just kind of think, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to get quick wins, I'm going to get an ROI. You've got to remember, depending on what you are selling, what is the buying cycle? So Stolen Goat, for argument's sake, live case study, Stolen Goat, cycling apparel brand, the buying cycle, unless you are a brand ambassador that wants to, because we used to do some weird and wonderful jerseys, and they'd be limited edition and people would want them because that's only going to be around. A bit like Prime, when Prime first came out, you couldn't get your hands on it. So you've got to remember that the buying cycle there was, you've maybe got maybe 1 to 3 windows a year of the buying cycle. You've got spring, summer, autumn, winter, and then you've got maybe a little bit in between where you've got birthday money or you've been given a gift voucher or something. So,
and isn't it amazing, Scott? I preach this politely to my clients all the time. I'm a bit concerned, Scott, that so many people aren't factoring in this thought process about the buying cycle and even just the average lead to sale time. Let's simplify it even more. Like, how many times do we need to talk to people, in which places for them to convert, right? And I think those two things are and can be intrinsically linked. I won't name them because it's unfair. I was working for a long time with a boat sales business, and they said to me something along the lines of, and I'll quote them verbatim here, it's something along the lines of, we probably need to calm down on frequency during the winter, Chris, because boats are sold in the summer. And it's that classic age-old mistake of not thinking about that buying cycle. So I think, Scott, that was an absolutely superb answer on that.
But with the going back to your boat question, is what tends to happen, and I did a lot of work over the years in the motorhome industry. Unfortunately, the company are no longer, but I'll mention them. But Beck's Motorhomes, what they enabled us to do, or enabled me to do with them, is that we would run campaigns during the winter, specifically around the people that were maybe having problems of winterization and other bits and pieces, and then most probably thinking, do we want to upgrade for next year? What do we do? So hand in hand, you've got two parts of that business, which was selling new and used motorhomes, but they also did the servicing and the repair work. So you need to continue that, because you've got two bites of the cherry. You're either going to sell something new, or you're going to sell the service to keep something running and that client happy.
With you, Scott, something I've spotted on your website is the sea of sameness, you've called it, which I think is just fantastic. I'm going to politely steal that saying from you, so I hope you've not got it trademarked. I joke. What do you mean by the sea of sameness, and how can businesses avoid sailing the sea of sameness, please?
I suppose this comes down to sort of the, God knows, 25-year plus agency side and marketing side, where I've seen it so much as we want to be like X, or we want to be like that. I want you to be like how I want you to be you, not how you want to be someone else. So it's about, when someone comes to us, it's about we just question, like, why are you doing this? Because normally the phone doesn't ring for we need help with strategy, we need help with this. Normally the phone rings and it's like, yeah, we think we need a rebrand, or we need a fresh start of, we need some new advertising, or can you do some social media or adverts? And yes, we can do all of that, but I wanted, coming back agency side, I wanted to do it differently, and I wanted to be the person that questioned. So I wanted to put into practice, and I'm seeing it more and more now, and it's great. I'm seeing more agencies invest in their staff with the likes of the mini MBAs that are out there. Rory Sutherland's got a course as well, where it's not so much of a, okay, we can do that for you, that's fine, let me take a brief and here's some pretty pictures and we can send this out. I wanted to be different. I wanted to give the client something. And it's more of a case of, right, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What is the end goal here? And can we work backwards? So yes, you want this, but in order to get that, I don't think this medium is the right thing. So, I want PPC, I want organic social, I want this. It's about, right, okay, what is it you're actually trying to achieve? And can we go back right to the beginning, and then can we look at, right, what you actually need is this, this, and this. If we do this bit first, then we can move on to this bit. And it's about not trying to do everything. It's not trying to run before you walk. It's baby steps. Yeah. It's kind of taking them back, going, if we do this bit first and you invest some budget into here, we should then do that. When we then start to see ROI, or you start to see movement on where your brand is sitting or where your service is sitting, we can then invest in the next bit. So rather than kind of, here you go, this is what it is, I didn't want to be that anymore. I wanted to basically clients to come to us and go, they've listened, and this is what they've done. I wanted them to feel trusted. And one of our very first clients, 𝗖𝗵𝗁𝗲, I read their case study the other day that we've got on the website in the quote, and it's a family-run business. And I met them through Stolen Goat. I met them at various bike shows, but they felt the trust was there, and we understood what they were trying to do with the business. And I was talking to them about, like, why do you want to redo your logo now? Why do you want to do this? What is the end goal? Why are we doing this? What is, and it all just kind of fell into line. So typically, we will start the process with like workshops, very not masses and masses of like, I'm going to get you in a room and PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint. Lots of nice activities, just to sort of icebreakers, etc., to sort of really kind of let us in, rather than kind of, you've most probably experienced it when you first go into that client. The shutters are up, and you basically want to break them down, and you want them to sort of trust you. Like, we're here to help you, not to hinder you. So that's basically where that comes from.
It's so good, and essentially, if you can take those steps, whether that be with Scott or another agency, or just within your own internal processes, the key takeaway there is, and I'm sure you'll agree, Scott, you must avoid the C of sameness. And Scott, coming to the end of the conversation now, I always ask my guests about the top mistakes, right? Let's avoid some traps for people. What are maybe the top 2, top 3, perhaps even more mistakes that you see business owners are making when perhaps they first engage with Bleat Creative?
I would say one is, and that's going back to what Carl said, you don't know the customer. That is the number one, is that you think you know your customer, but you don't actually know your customer. So by even doing surveys out to your current customers, and maybe getting them in the room, it's the qualitative and the quantitative research, and you can do that quite quickly at minimal cost. Two, one of the things, and is trust your marketing manager. If you've got the right marketing manager in post, you've got to give them an air of trust. Okay, so if what I've said today has resonated with you and your marketing manager has been saying about it, please listen to them. They've got a valid point. They are trying to make a difference. And 3 is, you can't chuck all of your eggs into one basket is the biggest thing. And tactical, don't just think this tactic and this tactic and this tactic will work, because unless you know the market and you know the customer, because at the end of the day, we all buy based on emotions. And people talk about B2C and they talk about C2C. It's not, it's H to H, it's human to human. We are humans, we are talking to them. We all live in a world of Amazon, and we need something the next day. But if you're buying something on Amazon and you've got a list of products and they've got all of these 5-star reviews, you're not going to click on all of the 5-star reviews, etc. You are literally going to buy based on emotions. I like the look of that. I like the color of that. I like the sound of that. So therefore, I'm buying that purely based on my emotions, not based on the logical fact that actually I should buy that one. Yes, it doesn't look as nice as the other one. It's got more star reviews. It's that we buy based on emotions. So at the end of the day, you need to remember that we are all human. I suppose that's my biggest takeaway from today, is just remember, we're all human. You are selling to a human being. So therefore, make sure you know your market, make sure that you know who you're talking to. But to save your budget, make sure you know what they like, what the tactics they like. Is it social media? Is it paid for advertising? Is it out of door advertising? Is it, all of these various different things? Is it PR? All of these, you need to understand that customer. And unless you understand them, you can't determine what tactics to use before you've done the segmentation, targeting, and positioning.
I feel like at this stage, Scott, I should have a soundboard where I go kapow or boom or something like that. I need to press that button. Matey, what a way to finish. Scott, how can people do business with you? Where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so just search up Bleat Creative on LinkedIn, or Scott McKay on LinkedIn. The website's bleatcreative.com. Just give us a like and a follow. And then we do something called Marketing Mondays, which are little marketing snippet tips that we give out, little 30-second animations that go out on LinkedIn every Monday morning, just to sort of give back to the community and be just some little snippets.
I've seen those snippets myself, and I can fully endorse those snippets as well worth following for. Scott, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
And thank you so much to everyone watching live or back or listening, whichever platform you are on. Let us know your feedback. We're at Reeve Social on social media, of course, as you'd fully expect. Please subscribe to us. And a massive thank you, as always, to our 2 partners, Big C, who help local people affected by cancer, and Hill Coaching Company. Last plug for the big event coming up, Reputation Matters. If you want some straight talking strategy from a PR specialist, a brand specialist, and a social media specialist, you need to come to Reputation Matters. It's on the 13th of September, and it's going to be a whopping great event. Make sure you drop me a message if you want to get your ticket. Thank you so much for watching another episode of A Coffee with Chris, and I'll see you same time next week.